Okay, so part two in our PixMinis, we are now going to be talking about the second show that came out, and that was Luxo Jr., which, for those of you who do not know, I actually first saw on Sesame Street.
I did too.
Yeah. So, I mean, anyone who, if you've been living under a massive rock for like, I guess a good 50, 60 years, for those of you who do not know, Sesame Street basically is a preschool kids show that has been helping, younger kids learn from basically watching television and interacting with and also kind of like was the primordial lose, I guess you could say, for like the whole Muppet, genre, I guess you could say.
Pretty much.
And you had you had the Count, and then you had the Cookie Monster, and then you had all the other kids as well, and like the neighborhood Sesame Street itself, where they would have it all set in Big Bird too, and it would basically be this whole fun learning experience. But then in between all of that, there would basically be animated features that they would do. So there'd be the pinball machine with going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and occasionally they would also get independent animators also do their thing as well, and that's where Pixar comes in, and so enter Luxo Jr.
Mm-hmm. And Luxo Jr., for those who are familiar with watching every single Pixar film, he is the little light that he would like jump onto the eye, and then the movie would start. So this is where he first started.
And that's how you know him. So,
and that is how you know him. It's kind of shocking that Andre and Wally B didn't become the mascots of Pixar, but I guess Luxo Jr. is a little bit more universal and iconic.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I couldn't imagine them being, mascots of Pixar. I think that's why. And also, well, Luxo Jr. as well, like, they managed to make a desk lamp look adorable. Like, that's and I think the desk lamp as well, given the fact that it is an object that will be on a very creative person's desk, I could probably imagine that would be a good icon to have, I think, as your mascot. So I think the desk lamp, I think, is probably the best thing I think that Pixar could use as to kind of like describe who they are as a company. So.
Yeah, and apparently it was based off of the idea of John Lasseter's old student film called The Lady and the Lamp, in which he wanted to give personality into inanimate objects. And so basically he decided to increase it up to the next level with the technology that they had. And one of their employees at the time, Tom Porter, had brought his son over to work, and Lasseter was, playing alongside with him. And then he saw that the baby's head was huge compared to the rest of its body. And he thought that, wouldn't it be funny if we can be able to combine the two? And so that is how Luxo Jr. came to be.
So the idea of Luxo Jr. once again is a very simple concept. It's there's a ball that gets knocked around on a desk, and there's the big lamp. I'm assuming he's like the parent of like the smaller lamp, I guess you could say. Maybe, I think so. I'm guessing so. And so the little lamp finds this little ball and starts playing around with it, and to the annoyance of the big lamp in a way. But I guess eventually the big lamp gets to the point where it's like, oh yeah, I'm just enjoying this in the best way I can. But then the ball pops, and the little lamp is sad because obviously it's not got its ball anymore. But then he finds another ball and is happy again. So.
Yeah, and this is actually where the ball that you guys know for all the Pixar movies, the yellow and blue ball with the star on it, this is where it originally came from.
Mm-hmm. And so I mean, there's funny enough, for like a very small and very simple short, there's a lot of Easter eggs already planted in the Pixar DNA, which would then flow off into like other movies.
The only thing we need to complete it is we need to have the A113, and we're good to go.
Yep, and we're good to go. So, in regards to, I really like this short because it's something very simple and something very basic, but yet it can still be, engaging to the eye. You ignore the fact that there's no scenery or no background or anything like that. It literally is just, the lights of the lamps just, reflecting down on the table, and it only just gives you, so much. And I love how this short just gives you, very little to look at, but gives you a lot to kind of absorb, because you're looking at inanimate objects, as you said before, that, are coming to life and are, moving around and are basically, and also have personality as well. So,
they had to work. They had to work with the limitations because, they were running on a very tight schedule with a limited budget. So it was even said in various interviews that John Lasseter and the other animator, Ed Camille, that they had to work on the clock, to they can be able to finish this short on time, even to the point in which they would just stay late in their offices and sleep under their desks so that they can be able to wake up the next morning and just finish off the short.
Oh wow, just like that's dedication when you really look at it. It's just this,
Hmm.
yeah. So, in regards to, I mean, and also it's got like a nice jazzy soundtrack, and I think that's something that we're going to see in some of the earlier shorts as well. Like they do go on like emotionally kind of like jazz soundtracks when you go into it, and so. But it's a lot more creative, I think I would say, more than Andre and Wally B is, because when you really think about it, Andre and Wally B in the previous one just had like just stock music and stock sound effects, but in this one it looks like they actually were more creative with the sounds, more creative with the music, and really gave the audience something original to kind of like an original concept to kind of play with in their minds.
Yeah. And the music was done by Brian Bennett. For those who don't know, he is the drummer behind the Shadows.
Cool. So, I mean, pretty short and sweet. We saw it on Sesame Street. We loved it, and little did we know that the people who were behind it were gonna basically do something even bigger than that. So,
Yeah, and we would see Luxo Jr. because it was actually put into the Toy Story 2 showing if you were to see it in theaters and if you own the DVD of it. So, yeah, if you want to watch Luxo Jr., you can check it out there. You can check it out in the Pixar Classic Shorts collection, and I think it's even on Disney Plus. So, if you want to see where truly the mascot of Pixar came from, this is where you first start.
okay, all right, guys. See you in part 3 tomorrow, and take care.
See you later.